Well, artist, we had a pretty good run. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the underground lair where we bring our creations to life. I'm Scott with Serkworks Art Labs. I'm a professional illustrator, designer, and mad creator. And I've always sort of played with this idea of the mad creator, of this crazy artist that's in this underground lair. I would always introduce my videos saying I create robots, aliens, zombies, and other imminent threats to humanity. And and I didn't think much about it. It was all in good fun and everything, but there's something going on right now in the art space I'm sure you're all familiar with, which really has me quite concerned, and just what AI, not only for art, but what the future of AI once computers start thinking and being creative and everything, what that really means for us as a society, I guess. So there's a lot of stuff going in my head right now, just rolling around in there. And I just wanted to come on here and just give some of my initial thoughts. I mean, could this be the end of the artist lifestyle career? Or could this create all new opportunities for artists? I mean, I'd like to look on the bright side, but there are, I still haven't really made a full decision on what's going on because a lot of it is just new to me. I'm seeing a lot of stuff right now with AI generated art that and one way just wows me and the other way really concerns me. So this is, like I said, this is just going to be my initial thoughts, and I've done these before. I did a video on NFTs and I put my original thoughts out there. My original kind of consensus, I guess, with that would be NFTs were a great thing for artists because it just allows another revenue stream. It allows artists to create a project and just another way to take the digital artwork that we're doing and sort of monetize that in a way that hadn't been done before. But as that kind of unfolded with the NFTs and everything, there's a lot of bad actors that came into the space, and then there's the environmental. There's just a lot of stuff that, at one point, I was ready to go on an NFT project, and it's still sort of sitting there. And at this point, I'm not sure if I want to go forward with that. And it's just there's just a lot of that stuff where, the initial idea and then where it goes from there. And I don't know where, or artificial intelligence generated artwork is going to go. I only know kind of what I'm seeing right now. And so this may not be the last video where I talk about this, and I may not cover everything that I want to, but I just thought I'd flip on the camera and just give a little bit of my thoughts about what I'm thinking right now in this moment about, AI art and possibly what that can mean for us as artists. So my initial takeaways is that it's really impressive. The things that like Midjourney, Dall-E 2, the stuff that I'm seeing coming out of there, it's really impressive. It's also a little scary. It's a little disheartening because when you think, all the skill I took into learning to be an artist and creating the things that I create and knowing how to do that, that it can simply be accomplished just by typing in some prompts into a keyboard and then having that generate. That's I have to be completely honest that it is a little disheartening in some ways, and I don't want to seem like a victim here, but it does seem a little unfair. But you know what? But then I also see a lot of potential in how artists can use this, and maybe not fear it so much, but use it as a tool, and kind of what we need to look at moving forward, how we can, because it's not going away and it's only going to get better. Right now, the stuff I'm seeing right now just blows me away, and all of this has happened in a relatively short amount of time. Like in the last year or two, it's just grown by leaps and bounds, and it will continue to grow and continue to get better exponentially. And so who knows where it's going to be. So I could sit here and I could talk about well, it's not quite, it can't really do this or that, but who knows a year or two, 5 years, 10 years from now, what it's going to be able to create. And so I think we need to really honestly be ready for that and figure out how we can hopefully maybe use this to our advantage as an artist. The one thing for sure is that these AI art generators will do, or already are doing, is just democratizing art. And to me, like I said, I can look at it like, oh, that's really unfair. I mean, I put all this time into learning my craft and everything like that. But then, if I look at it from a perspective of somebody who's not an artist, because I didn't really have so much problems when like video cameras became more affordable and easier to use, and when things like YouTube came along, I didn't have to have a whole production company or whatever to produce something like this. I wouldn't have been able to create this YouTube channel and do all that without the technology and the tools that have come along and allow me to do something that that just took away a lot of that learning curve. And there's a lot of other areas like that. I think a good example would be like music. I am not musically inclined. I mean, I enjoy music. I love hearing good music, but I don't know how to create music. That's not a skill that I ever bothered to take the time to learn, or I just wasn't interested in enough in it. But now they're just like with the AI art generators, there's music generators that I can create music or whatever that I can use for my videos and whatever, and that is attractive to me. So as somebody who's not a musician, now if I was a musician, that would scare the hell out of me. And like as an artist, it kind of scares the hell out of me too, that somebody who's not an artist has the ability to create amazing art. But it does democratize these different areas. So I would be sort of a hypocrite if I was all excited that, oh, now I can create music as somebody who's not a musician, versus if I'm upset at somebody who's not really an artist that can create great art. Now that isn't to say that, I think just having those tools isn't going to make you a better artist. Having a camera isn't going to make you a photographer. Having an AI generator to create artwork doesn't make you an artist, in my opinion. I think if you are a creative person, if you are an artist, then you could take a tool like Midjourney or Dall-E 2 and generate something and kind of use that as a stepping stone to take it to the next level. Again, who knows where eventually it's going to be able to just refine itself. So I don't know, but I mean, right now, the results you're gonna get, they may surprise you, but they're not always gonna be the results you really want, like what you have in your mind. But it could be, like I said, it could be a starting place to move on from. So even though it's upsetting that anyone can create artwork like that now, this, really what is amazing artwork, I can't be too mad at the people that want to take advantage of this, because just like I want to take advantage of 3D printing. Why would I have to, hire a manufacturer to put together some prototype of something when I could easily, maybe design it in 3D and print it myself? I mean, that's pretty amazing, and that's something that opens up opportunities to me as somebody who's not a manufacturer. Or same thing with like laser cutters. I can now do all kinds of stuff with wood that would, took me a lot of time to learn as a craftsman to create, but it just makes that stuff a lot easier. It's hard for me to say this, but I definitely understand, and I guess I need to welcome the idea that people, this opens up an opportunity to a lot of people to create artwork who might not otherwise be able to do that. Case in point, so my son has been working on this tabletop game for a while, and I've done some character designs for him, but he's got so much artwork that he needs for this game, and I'm thinking, I want to help him out with it, but I that's a lot of time for me to invest in this game, and I'm not like really a fantasy artist. That's not the kind of artwork that I do, but you can see if you look at any of the artwork that's been generated by AI, I mean, it is really, especially in like kind of the fantasy space, it does some amazing stuff. So, I mean, he could create, a Midjourney account and create pretty much the artwork he needs to put his, put his tabletop game together visually, and then, or maybe even it would help me if I wanted to just generate ideas it would definitely speed up the process. And I think that's one thing we need as artists, we need to look at is how can we use this to speed up our own productivity? Because the more stuff we can put out there, the more we can sort of monetize that and make a living off of it. If we can speed up the process of creating artwork, then we can get a lot more artwork done. I think as artists, we have the advantage where we have that artistic eye where we can take a computer generated image and take it to the next level. We can figure out how to package that, how to market that, what can we use this for, and create products like we've never been able to do before on a scale that we've never been able to do before. So that's definitely attractive to me. I could definitely see it speeding up, my process. And again, the stuff that I do isn't necessarily fantasy art. It's an area that I love looking at, but it's not really an area that I want to go down as far as creating. That hasn't been as attractive to me as things more like line art and comics. And I think as far as AI stuff goes, I think while I think it's good at creating things like fantasy art, like paintings and things like that, I think it's going to have a little harder time, at least right now, generating like, say, line art or comic book page or things that are more, I guess you could say, more simple. Because it doesn't have as much to go off. For instance, if you ever looked at a drawing of Mickey Mouse and it's a little off model, you notice there's something wrong with this. And if it's just a little tad or like peanuts or anything like that, if it's not drawn exactly correct, just one little thing is off, you notice right away because it's so simple. Whereas I think there's more room in generating AI, the more information's there, the more you miss things. It's kind of like in the 90s with comic book artists, there was a lot of cross-hatching, a lot of, pouches and shoulder pads and all that stuff. You could hide things like bad anatomy and things like that, where if you have a really simple drawing, anything that's off is going to show up a lot better. I think there's more distractions things that you're not going to notice, where if it's something simple like, a comic book or whatever. And, I've seen people type in, and I haven't experimented with any of this yet. I will at some point and kind of see how I can use this tool. But if you put let's have a fight between these two people, it's very static. It's like a profile of a boxing or something like that. You're not going to have the dynamicism and things like that you would get in a comic book page. So I think it's still a little ways off from that. If I was a concept designer, I would be a little worried about the future of my job in the immediate future. Well, actually, let me reframe that because that's not totally true. I would say if I'm working for a studio, because imagine a studio, they're for like a film or something, they're creating a film, they're gonna have a number of artists, they're gonna go, okay, give me your best idea for this particular scene. And all the artists would put together, and then the art director would look at it and say, okay, I like this and I like that and I like this, let's do this, and go back. But now, I think the amount of people on staff is gonna diminish. I mean, I think the computer is going to be able to generate all those concept designs, and it's not that far off from the way a lot of concept designers work now, where really a lot of what they're doing, because that has to be done so quickly, is they're like taking different photos and photo bashing them and painting over them and everything like that. So, and the computer can do that way faster. So I think the number of people that are staffed at a company like that, it's going to go down, which is going to create less opportunity for concept designers. Where I think this is really going to be an opportunity for somebody who does concept design is if you are working on something of your own IP, your own idea, because this is going to give you the ability to create something that a studio could create in your own home. Just like I'm saying before, you would need all this stuff to create the videos and stuff that now we just can upload to YouTube, no problem. I mean, I think the future for artists really is going to move away, I think, a lot from working for companies. And I know that's going to be difficult for a lot of people, because a lot of people, that's all they see. Oh, I want to work for Disney, or I want to do that. When I think really, for me, what I've been doing and what I really see the future for artists is to be your own independent artist, create your own stuff. It's a lot of work. You got to learn how to market it. You got to learn how to take advantage of social media, video, all this stuff, and get your work out there. But I really think for people in that position, I think it's going to help us out. So that in some way that is reassuring to me as an independent artist, not somebody who works for a studio or whatever. Because I think unfortunately, I think a lot of that those positions are just going to dry up, and it's just going to be an art director or maybe a few artists, not as many as we had before. I mean, all this is really crazy to me because my friend Corey Kerr, who if you watch any of his content, he's very on top of kind of where AI and things are going, and he's sort of got a little bit of a doom and gloom attitude towards it, but he also has the positive idea that it's not inevitable. We can change this if we actually, whether it's legislation or whatever that, or restricting AI doing certain things. And he talks about and there's been times before where we decided, no, this is not a good thing for humanity. Like with when they cloned Dolly the sheep. I mean, there were rules put in place, legislation saying, no, you cannot do this. You can't go on and start cloning human beings. So we can stop certain things from happening if it's going to go down that road where AI is going to take over all our lives and just basically destroy the world like Terminator style. So who knows, but I'm trying not to think so much about that. And I don't want to get off on a tangent on that. You can definitely watch some of Corey's content. But one thing that he always said, or he even had like a sticker, and I've got it, I think it's on my laptop or it's somewhere. I mean, it's stuck somewhere. But it says, do things computers can't. And it's got a picture of a brain, and it's sort of it's spelled in the shape of a brain and everything. And the idea is that creativity is going to be the last thing that AI comes for. It's going to be able to drive our cars. It's going to take over the trucking industry. It's going to do all this stuff. Anything that is repetitive, that can be easily accomplished, or that a computer can figure out how to do, it's going to take over that. But his idea was that, it's going to be, it's going to be a while before computers are going to be able to be creative. And it's not that they are creative, because they're basically basing everything on things that already exist. But in all fairness to us as artists, we do that too. I mean, everything that we learn how to do as artists, everything is things that inspire us. We take a little bit here, we take a little bit there. And that's what generates sort of our style and everything. So, I mean, it's not like AI is that far off. But I don't know if they're necessarily creative yet. When that day comes, I mean, that could be the end of everything. It's just so crazy because to me, it's happened so fast. I should have probably been more aware of what was going on until now, where I'm just seeing it all over the place. So I'm a little overwhelmed. But it's funny because there was always that joke when you're working with clients as an artist, and they're like, well, can't you just hit the draw button in Photoshop? Just hit the button and it'll create that for you. And it was always a joke that, they just think you can hit a button and it'll just draw something from you. And now you can. Now the draw button is done, and it won't be long before that draw button is integrated into like a Photoshop. The AI is going to be integrated. Adobe's going to integrate all this stuff, and like I said, hopefully we can use that, take advantage of it, and use it as a tool to up our productivity, to put out more things. But I think we're going to have to look at it that we're not going to be able to think of it the same way we did before, or do things the same way. I think we're going to have to get ahead of this and have to be smart about it if we want to continue to thrive as artists. And I think a big step in the right direction of that is to create your own stuff, because I don't know how much opportunities at studios and things like that there will be in the future. And maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I am, because there's a lot of people that's their dream. They don't want to do all the other stuff that's not art. They don't want to do the business side and all that. They just want to go in, they want to work, they want to be creative and go collect a paycheck and go home. And I can't fault anyone for that. So I think it is a tool, but there's a lot of legal issues around this. I mean, the AI is taking artwork from all these different places, and how much of that is, it's borrowing from artists, things that they've took time, like famous artists particularly are the target of a lot of these prompt searches and everything. Whether you're James Gurney or whether you're, some artists are already passed. I don't know, I think Disney animators, people, anyone that a lot of people like their style, there's people like, oh, draw it like this, and they'll get, but what does that artist get out of it? It's kind of, I don't want to get into the whole fan art thing, but I steer clear away from most fan art just because I don't think I think you're borrowing from somebody else's, or stealing or borrowing, whatever you want to say, from somebody else's idea, and when you could be sort of creating your own original ideas, just because it's easier, because it's more recognizable. Again, I don't want to go down that road, but it strikes a chord and it's similar to me. But as far as legally, I don't know what that means. How much of this, it's kind of, I don't know if this is a good analogy or not, but there's that song, if you've heard that song by Johnny Cash, One Piece at a Time, it's basically a song about Johnny Cash is working in this automotive factory, building cars and stuff, and I think it's a Cadillac factory, and he wants to build a Cadillac. So he's stealing one small part at a time, and over years he finally builds this car. But as the years go on, the models have changed, and it doesn't quite fit together. So there's this weird amalgamation. He talks about when he's rolling down the street in this car that he's stolen piece by piece. It just looks like something. It doesn't look like. It looks like something else. And to me, I think right now where AI is, it's kind of like that. You're stealing bits and pieces and creating this weird Frankenstein. But like I said, it's also only going to improve. So it's weird. I don't know legally how I feel about all this. And like I said, if I was going to help my son do artwork for his game, are we using stolen ideas and artwork to generate these things? I don't know. It's that's one of those things I think I'm going to have to come back to. I think a good alternative to and something we can use as a tool, and I would have to imagine maybe Adobe or somebody will eventually integrate something like this, but instead of pulling or not pulling so much from whether it's public domain, we don't know where all these images are coming from, but whether it's public domain, whether it's copywritten or trademarked by somebody else or whatever, and generating something, one thing that I think as artists would be a really powerful tool is if it can learn from us. The other thing about creating computer-generated artwork, AI artwork, is it's in the public domain. Even though we don't know where it came, the previous stuff that built it came from, that finished artwork is there for everyone to see. I think there is some way to make your accounts private on certain programs and everything, but it's there for everyone. So it's not you don't own that yourself. So even though every image that's generated is going to be unique onto itself, even if you're using the same prompt, it's still sort of available to everyone. So I don't know if that means that if you create something, you decide to make a print of it, if you decide to do whatever you want, put it on a product, if somebody can't take that same print and do the same thing, I don't know how that all works. But one thing that I think would make a lot of sense is if we could have some kind of AI generated, program that learns from us as artists. So we create our own style, and the AI learns from us and can help us, replicate the thing that we're doing, personal to us, not based on what other people are doing. I think that would be a really powerful tool. It's almost like I always had this idea of this future where, sure, say factory jobs and things like that are going to be automated and everything, but if you are like a factory worker, if you could save up enough money and purchase a robot yourself, and you own that robot, and instead of going off to work at a factory, you just send your robot, and then the robot does all the work, and then you collect the money. So I mean, I think and you're free to do whatever you want. So I think in a world where they're not going to need humans. If we can have a piece of that technology, if we can own it, if we can profit from it, then it's like we don't have to work anymore. We just let the robots do our job, but we're not out of job because we're earning money from that. So I think something like that, like a personal AI that can help us with our own work. Because I always say, imagine what I could do if there were two of me. And so if we could create an AI that could basically be working alongside you, creating the same things you have, then you can up your productivity, and that's attractive to me as an independent artist. So that being said, what am I going to do? What am I looking at in the future now that AI has arrived? I mean, it's inevitable. It's not going to go away. I mean, I've heard some people talk about how that's sort of like a fad. It's definitely in the zeitgeist now, but it is not going to go away. It's only going to get better. It's only going to it is going to, I fear, take jobs away from people. But I think a lot of times, anytime jobs are taken away, a lot of times there's other opportunities being open to other people. And sometimes, again, these are people that may not be the creative people. But, but as creative people, I think we have the upper hand, and we can use that to our advantage. So eventually I will play around with AI. I'll see. I think as an idea generator, I think it's going to help me a lot, coming up with concepts and everything that I can there run with. The other thing that I'm going to do, and I had already before I kind of was really more aware of what's going on, planned on, making some changes to even the YouTube channel where I want to show more hands-on creation and more things that, people like to watch people creating things that you can't get that from just typing in a prompt. No one's going to, well, I could be wrong, but I don't think anyone's going to sit there and watch somebody type in prompts and see what comes up. They could, but you can do that yourself, So I think people really still like to watch the process, things being done. So I think that's really the area I'm going to go into in the future with this channel and everything. More hands-on, showing the process of creating things, building things, whatever the case is. So that's sort of where I'm going to go and see how I can use this stuff to my advantage and just stay ahead of that technology if I can, and try not to focus too much on things that are going to be replaced by AI and focus on the things that AI has yet to accomplish really well. And I think a lot of that is the process, building, creating, and tapping into things that people don't get from AI. There's still, whether it's niche, whether it's more artisanal, there's still going to be a market for that kind of stuff. So I think that's the area that I'm going to go in and just keep sort of this watchful eye on AI and AI generated artwork. It's fascinating. It's scary. But yeah, I don't know, but I definitely want, and this one in particular, I want to know your thoughts, because this is something that I imagine was on its way, but it came a lot sooner than I had anticipated. So yeah, we got to figure out how we can use this to our advantage. Again, my advice would be, think about what you can do as an independent artist. All of these tools are going to help you increase your productivity, put out more stuff, and it's going to open up things that before we couldn't even imagine, like with YouTube. We don't need to get on TV and do all that stuff. We can do all this stuff ourselves. And that's the one thing that, whether it's AI generated artwork, whether it's the cost of, 3D printers going down or industrial type quality printers in general, all that stuff, we can produce the kind of artwork, print on demand, things that we have capability to publish our own books just at the, basically uploading a PDF and putting it out there on Amazon and selling it. These are all things that I've taken advantage of that have helped me in my business, and I'm sure AI generated artwork will play some role in that in what I do in the future. I'm not quite sure what that is yet, but those are my initial thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comment section. I know this is a little long one, this is a little ranty, but like I said, I'm still trying to figure all this stuff out. And we'll probably do follow-ups and we'll see kind of where it goes from there. But those are my initial thoughts, a little all over the place, but hopefully you got something out of it. Anyway, I will see you guys later. That is all. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. Also, you can follow me at Serkworks on social media, and now you can support the work that I do on Patreon. Do you like making comics? Then go to Serkworks.com and pick up the Comic Maker Starter Kit. It's packed full of fonts, brushes, templates, and more. And best of all, it's totally free.